Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. Well, you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me on Candid Frank Live is Aaron William Freeland. So we better start with sports because it's less serious after doing that.
That was a bit of a hype up there, Frank. I appreciate that.
Just a little, I guess, boxing introduction or wrestling.
Either
I'm sure
or
you
works.
know about that stuff a little bit.
I certainly do.
I am so grateful. I finally have shaken this cold that I've had for. I think I had it for like 4 weeks.
Goodness gracious.
Where my throat was not the same for 4 weeks. And I know some other people who've actually had it as well, because it really had the ability to retain itself, to avoid that cold wasn't a shrinking violet. Now, it did affect me in some ways. I found myself to be very tired. I don't know about everybody else that ended up with this cold. I know it isn't. I know it wasn't COVID or RSV or UPI or GSK. It wasn't any of the. Oh, GSK is a soccer team, isn't it?
They're also a pharmaceutical company.
There you go, a pharmaceutical company. So I'm grateful that I'm out of the woods, folks. I said, take care of yourselves. It's getting to be that time of year, Aaron. Where colds and flu and COVID.
Yeah, it's sort of the unholy trifecta.
What I find amazing is that we're less panicked about COVID now. Now, is it because it has less of an effect now than it did before, which I think is the reason? But some of the let's just say people who are pessimistic about whatever will say, well, it's probably behaving the same way it did before. We're just not freaking out, which could be partly true too.
It's a combination, I think, of that and a bit of fatigue about the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's going to get me at this point.
It's like, I'm not answering the door, knock on the door. I'm not answering the door, doorbell. I'm not answering the door, the banging gets harder. I'm not answering the door, I can feel them trying to use the doorknob. I'm not answering the door. Then they kick the door down. Then I'll realize, okay, maybe I should answer the door and consider what's going on outside. So, but that's where we're at right now. We're waiting for them to kick. We're waiting for COVID to kick down the door. So hopefully it doesn't kick down the door. I hope so much that we don't go through what we've gone before. I think we've done our part for this last 100 years, and I think we can wait another 100 years for something like that to happen again.
Well, I think we've actually finally managed to get the PA out of my endemic. So
There you
I'm
go.
very, very happy about that. It's still an issue, but it's not as big of an issue.
Right. And let me emphasize, endemic.
Yes.
Endemic. That's the way we like it here. And of course, he's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci, and we're here to talk about sports news and current events. And let's start with some news, and we'll start with the Canadian Football League, and what a game the Argos had against the Red Blacks. I've said my piece, and what I'm going to say is this. Again, the Argonauts come out at the second half and change their fortunes.
This seems to be a very, very common trend with this team, and I think it bodes well for the future. They finished with a 9-0 record at home, which is awesome. Very happy about that. They didn't play particularly well in the first quarter. There was some trepidation coming out of the leading into the half, especially with the fact that they were still, not quite where they wanted to be. But, coming back to actually get themselves the lead there, and with Kelly running in a 2-point convert, that was kind of awesome. So I was glad to see that as well. The final score of the game, 40-27, kind of belies the fact that the game was actually a little bit closer than that.
Yeah, it was. There were a couple of mistakes, that Ottawa made, and it cost them dearly. And that's after they ran back a kick. So things were going really well for them. It just, I think it's fair to say that this has been the pattern of their season. Ottawa has had difficulty bringing it home, bringing a lead home. They haven't done it, and they paid for it. The next game we'll talk about is the Owls and the Elks. The Elks, I think they ran out of steam, Aaron. They did some great stuff after having a terrible start. And I think the realization of not making the playoffs was a little too depressing for them. And Montreal was ready for them and basically made them pay.
Yeah, I mean, this was a tale of two seasons, really, for the Edmonton Elk. After the absolutely disastrous start that they had for themselves, the fact that they managed to um, put a couple wins together was a good thing to see. Going over for them after all of the retooling and moves that they made during the offseason would have been absolutely disastrous. But, I mean, they did as well as Ottawa, which is damning with faint praise. But, at
Yes,
least they're not
absolutely. Ottawa
crazy.
had a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Then you have the Rough Riders, who I'm not sure we want to make the playoffs. I mean, what's the playoffs worth? Why should we go into playoffs? An extra week to play? I don't know.
It
That's what it seemed
does.
like.
It seems like they lost interest in the season, quite
Total
frankly.
interest. It's just
You
scary.
know? Yeah. I mean, their away record, their road record of 2-7-0 certainly didn't help them. I mean, they were 500 at home, but this is a team that they have all the right pieces. They have the ability to go far. They just need to, what's the word I'm looking for?
A quarterback?
Care. There we go. They need to care
Do they
about
have
winning.
Yeah, yeah, no, good. I just find it horrendous. Those fans deserve much better.
Oh,
They were teased into thinking that their team was an up and coming team the last couple of years, and this year they have proved otherwise. And I really don't believe in it's getting to the point now where this game will have cast a pall on the management team, and I can't see both surviving. I could see one surviving, but not both. The Rough Riders are going to look to retool. This is not the kind of season that sells tickets. And as hungry for football that Saskatchewan fans are, and when I say Saskatchewan, I mean Saskatchewan. Even though the team plays in Regina, it's the province that's behind this team, and they're well within their rights to expect better, and they didn't have better.
well, I mean, it is really now a question of when the dust settles, who's the last man that's left standing for this
We're going to
organization,
find
because
out.
they've not done themselves any favors.
The Battle of the Meow Meows, the Lions and Ticats. Lions going to Hamilton, leave with a victory, 33-30, a game that Hamilton could have won, a game that BC almost seemed to want to give back to Hamilton. Hamilton falls short. Their expensive quarterback played pretty well. Their backup quarterback, if that's fair to call him their backup quarterback, Schiltz, played really well as well, and they still have Powell in the background. This is a team that has a quarterbacking strength that I don't think many of the other teams in the Canadian Football League can claim.
No, and certainly there were knocks against Bo Levi at the start of the season, especially after he came up lame. I'm glad that he's recovered and he's given them a little bit more to fight for. They have already clinched a spot. The question now becomes, do they have enough left in the tank to beat Montreal in the first round of the playoffs? On the flip side of the coin, you've got Dane Evans, who is coming back into Hamilton, and after appearing in two Grey Cups with them in 2019 and 2021, he was just sort of shuffled off, after they picked up Bo Levi Mitchell. So there was a bit of an emphasis, I think, on him to play well, especially going in to replace Vernon Adams Jr. So that's one of those things where this had all the potential to be an absolutely disastrous game for one or if not both teams. And in this particular situation here, White's last-second field goal kind of helped the Lions come out on top.
Yeah, you speak the truth. Let's move on to MLS, and an era ends. Michael Bradley, the captain of the Toronto FC football team, I'll call him.
Yeah,
MLS
footy
team.
club.
He has decided it's time for him to hang up his cleats.
Yeah, he's 36 years old at this point. God, I was there 12 years ago.
So was I. We went to a game together back then.
But
A little after
yeah,
that,
so
but
the 36-year-old is retiring after their final visit, after the final match, sorry, against Orlando City. He didn't make a big deal out of it. There was no look at me. There was just a simple, a dream come true. Thank you for everything, Michael Bradley, and that was it. For the past decade, he's been playing with his club through thick and through thin, through all the highs and most of the lows. Um, and I guess it was just time for him to hang it up. I mean, he played over 200 games for them. His 200 game was actually back in November 2019. So he certainly put in his time, and I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, and I think when the season started and his father was the coach, uh, this isn't the way he wanted to see this season go. This
Yeah.
totally it went sideways, for his dad, for him, and it's kind of a sad way to go. I hope that TFC does something special for him at some point. I don't know, next year or this year. They can't. They're not. I don't think they play at home anymore, right? They don't have any more home games, so they can't do something like that at home.
Actually, sorry, I misspoke earlier. They're actually playing at home against Orlando on
Oh,
Saturday.
okay. So maybe
So
they should do something then,
yeah, there's
right?
the hope there. He's played 308 games with them. They got to do something.
Yeah, and you know what? It would be nice to give him a nice send off and to remind all of us, including him and his teammates, he was a part of a pretty good team for a pretty good stretch. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, but TFC brought a lot of pride to the city of Toronto, brought a championship, did a lot of great things. They opened up soccer to this community and made it very popular. That TFC team did what a lot of other towns joined to do. It really opened up everybody into the idea of bringing a soccer. MLS when they came in, a franchise was like $1 million. Now it's in the hundreds of millions.
And along the way, he's had 19 goals and 308 appearances. Uh, Won the MLS Cup in 2019, got the Supporters Shield and Canadian Championships, made it all the way to the final of the CONCACAF Champions League and lost to Guadalajara in a penalty shootout. Like this is a guy that's done a lot for soccer in and around Toronto. Even as an American, originally signed as a Project 40 contract, now a Generation Adidas contract with MLS at the age of 16, and was picked 36 back in 2004. This guy has done so much for soccer in and around Toronto that he deserves to be remembered in the best light possible, despite the past 3 seasons.
Around that time, an NBA team that happened to play in Toronto won a championship as well around that time. And of course, since then, all those great players that were part of winning the championship are gone, except for Pascal Siakam and a couple of other players. But they also have Scotty Barnes now that they drafted, and he's turned out to being a very good leader for the team. This is a team that relies heavily on those two players, Aaron. It's hard to bring in players to Toronto around the NBA, so they have to build from within. And the hope is that those two guys can put it through the roof, and maybe they can lead this team into making some noise in the playoffs, or at least have a very good season that the fans can enjoy.
No, for sure. And the way that Scotty Barnes has actually been playing throughout the preseason, he's basically been in, for lack of a better term, absolute beast mode. Pascal Siakam has shown that despite his years, he's still got it. The Raptors have actually moved to 3-0 in the preseason with a 106-102 win over the Bulls, and they're looking to continue to draw up some of their younger players. And I have a feeling they're going to be leaning on their prospects in Raptors 905. So that will be something worth watching.
Well, they have the good fortune of having their your young players playing very close to Toronto and Peel. So, it's a wonderful situation for them to at least organize their players and give their players a real good look. They're not out of town. They're in town. It's a great opportunity. So hopefully here's to the Raptors having a good season, an entertaining season for their fans. Last year was an up and down season. Maybe they'll have a more consistent season. Inconsistency, the National Hockey League, when it comes to Canadian teams, That seems to be the definition of the Canadian team, starting with the Canadiens, who yesterday enjoyed a visitor in Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury, who received a standing ovation in the Wild's victory 5-2 over the Montreal Canadiens. And the Montreal fans showed a lot of class and supported his greatness and his wonderful play. He's known as the Flower. That is, of course, the emblem of Quebec.
Yeah, he played an absolutely fantastic game. I use that word way too much, but he was asked if it was going to be his last game ever in Montreal, and he was rather non-committal on that point. But he is 38 years old. He's a bit of a Quebec favorite because he was born in Sorel. But yeah, he made 27 saves in his first start this season. Minnesota beat the Canadiens 5-2. Got a standing ovation. It was a nice moment. He said he felt it was just in general a great feeling to have. So yeah, I mean he's part of that generation that grew up with Carey Price and Henrik Lundqvist and a couple other goalies leading the way. So he is part of that sort of core nucleus that have been absolutely stellar in the NHL for the past decade or so. So
if you're a fan or a member of the management team in the Montreal Canadiens, you're hoping to heck that you have inconsistent injury reports to deal with this year as opposed to last year, because last year they led the league in man games lost. And now one of the key acquisitions they brought into Montreal is injured, and it appears he's gone for the season. My goodness.
yeah, there was a play during the first period where a player who was rumored to be coming to the Maple Leafs, Jared Tenorti, actually put Kirby Dach into the Blackhawks bench. Unfortunately, as a result of that, he was actually medically evaluated, and it turns out he has an ACL and MCL that were both torn at that particular point in time. Not only that, he wasn't the only one to go down. Caden Gooley also left for the dressing room late in the second period with an upper body injury and did not return. So he's still being evaluated as well. So it looks like this trend of missing man games is unfortunately continuing for the Habs. And I don't know what it is that they can possibly do. It seems like an odd trend to me, Frank, and this is something I've been noticing more and more, that players seem to go down with injuries more frequently and for longer periods of time now. And I can't help but wonder if it's a situation where they're maybe spending too much time in the gym.
There is truth to that, and there also is a drastic change that's going on with players. They're getting away from that and doing more stretching than trying to build up muscle and stuff. That doesn't mean all the players have bought into that idea of not doing it, because they still do. But overtraining can lead to a lot of injuries. In fact, some people say that a lot of these non-contact injuries are basically due to that fact. Now, this was a contact injury, and I have to say, my biggest disappointment that I got away from or walked away from in that game was that Gooley got injured too before Halloween. God, I was looking forward to him playing during Halloween. I just, it seems very not nice that Gooley is gone. You got to have goals at
Oh, for
New
sure.
Halloween. All right. Kirby Dach goes down. And then we had a revisit from Pierre-Luc Dubois in Winnipeg. Aaron, they're not happy with him coming back. They had reason to be even less happy after the game started.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I mean, for Winnipeg, he was the Maple Leafs killer for the longest time. But yeah, he got a reception that was almost as cold as the weather when he came out onto the ice in Winnipeg. He was heartily booed, I believe is the easiest way to put it.
Are you sure he was booed? They weren't saying doob?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty
Just
sure.
checking.
I mean, some people clap, but most people booze. And I don't even think Dubois knew that they were playing footage of him in his 3 years in Winnipeg up there. But, midway through the second period, he opened the scoring and got his first point in the Kings uniform with a goal against the newly signed Connor Hellebuck. So there's that to consider as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then we have Old Flame comes in with the Capitals to ruin the Flames' day. The little guy had a goal.
Yeah, uh, he was actually. It's really funny. He was standing under the words "something to prove" in the Washington Capitals locker room. But yeah, Matthew Phillips got his first NHL goal against his own team, the Calgary Flames, and said, "You know what? I'm okay with that." Yeah, he's only
Right?
5'7" and 140 pounds, so he's
Yeah, yeah,
definitely a little dude. But
yeah.
Phillips spent 7 years in the organization, uh, you know, and it's one of those where he never really got the chance. So glad to see him have the opportunity in Washington.
Historical moment yesterday in for Edmonton. Draisaitl scores a goal in on the power play, and he leads all Edmonton Oilers. Imagine a team with that Gretzky was on in power play goals.
Yep. Two power play goals and two assists he had, and the Edmonton Oilers actually finally won a game. They beat the Nashville Predators 6-1. Zach Hyman had a goal and three assists. Ryan Nugent Hopkins had a goal and two assists, and Jack Campbell actually made some saves.
Stop the puck.
Yeah, had 41 of them.
Good for him. He hasn't had a very good run since he went to Edmonton. The early season, the last Leaf season he played really great. And it got bad towards the end of the year, and he has continued since. He's hoping to recover. Let's talk about the Oilers and how they find themselves already with a goaltending mess.
Yeah, looking at the starting statistics here, I'm going to throw some numbers at you, Frank, and you let me know if this sounds disturbing enough or not. Skinner's 0-1-0 with a 5.33 goals against and a 750 save percentage.
Yikes.
On the flip side of the coin, there's Jack Campbell with a 1-1-0 record, a 3.43 goals against average, but a 9.15 save percentage.
Much better.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Leafs. Corey Perry scores against the Leafs again, and they top Toronto 4-1.
Interesting statistic here. This is something that I picked up listening to another podcast. Corey Perry had never scored a winning goal against the Toronto Maple Leafs in his career. So
He did then.
his goal last game was his first game winning goal. Second goal. Leafs only scored one, so but Joseph Wall actually had a decent game. He had 27 saves.
Breakaways.
Yeah, well, and again, this is a team that if they get their heads out of their butts, can do a lot of scoring, but are an absolute tire fire at times on the back end.
What's this about agents of chaos playing for the Maple Leafs? It causes problems. What now?
Yeah, something about turning a bull loose in a china shop. They picked up Ryan Reeves, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Max Domi. Those were the three major signings for the Maple Leafs, and those guys are known to turn games in big ways. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that those ways are always good. There was an incident actually during the first game that Ryan Reeves took the blame for. I don't know why, when TJ Brody fell on his butt and gave up a goal. John Klingberg has been a bit hit and miss. Entertaining to watch.
He's come as advertised. He is not known as a defensive defenseman. He was a guy they brought in for their power play.
Yeah, but I mean, like bringing these guys in and somehow at one point, I think 3 of the 4 of them ended up on the ice together, and that was just an absolutely terrifying moment.
And Max Domi is being slid down the lineup.
He you know what? For some odd reason, he hasn't seemed to be able to perform. He seems to be doing a lot of floating. I know that he doesn't do any penalty killing. That is pretty much a guaranteed. But it just seems like he hasn't been able to find his footing again.
He lacks aggressiveness, and by that I don't mean aggressive in physical aggressiveness. I mean aggressiveness with intensity on the ice. You call it floating. I call it he's basically, I don't know, trying not to make a mistake. I think, I think he's feeling the pressure.
Yeah, and I can understand that. The problem that arises though is when you start making sawdust because you're gripping your stick too tight, you're unfortunately neglecting other portions of your game that you're actually good at.
Back in the day, guys like that, Aaron, you know what they did to fix their game? Take a hit or get into a fight.
And I think that's actually one of the things that one of my coaches used to stress all the time is when you get on the ice, make sure in your first shift you make contact with somebody. Doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to be an open ice hit, doesn't have to be a world ender. You just have to go out there and make contact. That way you feel that
You
you're
gotta
in the game.
peel. You gotta peel that bandage.
Mm-hmm. So
Absolutely, Aaron. This was a pleasure, buddy. Today
glad to
is
be here,
Monday,
Frank.
right?
I
No,
know
today's
today is
Wednesday.
Wednesday. We got another
Oh,
half an
forget it.
hour.
We're gonna keep going. All right, that's the least. Let's go into the news. I apologize for some reason. I was thinking it was Monday. I have no idea. Oh, I know why, because we didn't do a show on Monday. All right, I think that's why, or just old age sinking in. Let's talk about the news. And apparently, Trudeau made a pitch to Alberta. What kind of pitch?
Well, a lot of people are saying that this is, a definite ball on his part. But there, we mentioned this in the stories last week. Danielle Smith put out a report that she commissioned from a group saying that if Alberta pulled out of the CPP, like a divorce, they would be entitled to $334 billion, which amounts to more than half of the Canada Pension Plan's assets. Now, I don't know if those of our listeners are really aware of this thing, but LifeWorks is one of those companies that you can definitely hire for the right price to say what you want. Um, at least that is what I have heard about them. It has not been confirmed, but that is at least in part their reputation. Uh, Mark Leduc is senior managing director of the nonpartisan Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, but says, yeah, that 334 billion is a little bit improbable because Alberta's actual contributions really only amount to about 20 to 25% of the Canada Pension Plan. So the fact that they would think that they should be able to take over half of it seems a little bit shady for me. But at the same time, here's the thinking: if you're going to start your own pension plan, you don't get to start it with somebody else's money. You got to start it yourself.
Yeah, and the more people you have, the easier it is to make it work. You need a big pool to make it work.
And that's the thing. Alberta is not one of the more populated provinces. They are certainly one of the wealthier provinces, but they're not one of the more populated ones.
And by the way, during a divorce, yeah, you can take the assets, but guess what, baby? You're stuck with the debts too.
And you know what? CBP is funded for the next 75 years, fully funded. So to try to take your money out of that to try to start something better, especially with an investment company who in the past has incurred significant losses for different Alberta corporations and companies, makes very little sense to me.
BC loses a newspaper. Promises are that it'll be picked up in the small town. This is something that's trending across the country and, in fact, North America and the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's been one of those situations where Glacier Media has decided they're going to shut down Fort St. John's Alaska Highway News and the Dawson Creek Mirror this week, um, saying that papers are no longer sustainable as ad revenue has shifted heavily to online platforms such as Facebook or Google, which is ironic in that Facebook refuses to properly pay and carry news in Canada. So to to shift in that regard that way seems a little odd. But um, they're hoping to fill the gap with homegrown, locally owned news outlets. Um, a recent edition of the Dawson Creek Mirror said that there are papers that help grow in our communities, but it's actually very devastating news for a lot of the folks that rely on those as their source of income. So
Absolutely.
we'll have to see how it pans out.
Well, a judge dismisses prospective lawyers' challenge over mandatory oath to the monarchy.
So this was put forth by Prabjot Singh Wiring, who is a devout Amritdhari Sikh. He made an absolute oath and submitted himself to Akal Purakh, the divine being in the Sikh faith, and is prohibited from making similar allegiances to another entity or sovereign. So he put up a challenge to the Law Society's oath of allegiance, um, just saying, "Hey, I've already promised myself to this. Making me do this in order to be a lawyer would, you know, constitute me breaking my vow, which is not a good thing. Um, the Law Society of Alberta has taken no position on this, but the judge who was at the head of the case said that it's not really an oath to the Queen under the current context. Um, the reference to the Queen in the oath of allegiance is as a symbol of values, and it should be properly characterized as an oath to uphold and maintain the rule of law and the Canadian constitutional system. So you're not swearing to an individual, a sovereign, or another entity. You're saying you're going to uphold the laws of a country, which is a different.
Well, this is just another one of those things where, you know how you end up with laws on the books that are way outdated because they don't have time, or politicians are too busy doing something, I don't know what, to fix and ensure all the old laws are updated. In this case, it's just a lack of update to it. And I don't think any religion or any group of people can say they don't or shouldn't be loyal to Canada. I think we have a right to expect that of each other, um, but it isn't in the sense of a religious belief. It has to do with being loyal to your neighbors and that we work together. And when you work for the community, you should have to at least say, yeah, you know what? I promise that I'll do what's right for the community. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
give me a break. It's so silly. You know, sometimes I saw a commercial yesterday with Ron Reagan. You know, Ronald Reagan's son. He started an organization, anti-religious group, agnostics, and he's advertising, and then he ends his sentence by saying, "I'm Ron Reagan. I believe in I can't say it.
Agnosticism?
Agnosticism. Yes, I believe in that, and I'm not afraid of burning in hell." That's how he ends his commercial. You got to
Uh,
check it out. It's hilarious. You should Google it and see. It's funny the way he did it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make fun of religion. I'm just making fun of people, how they react within and from the outside of religion sometimes. Sometimes it's a caricature of itself, you know, and people are a caricature of themselves as well. Now, speaking of religion, no, let's talk about public transit safety.
right. So, Calgary City Council actually approved a new public transit safety strategy. This is just yesterday. That is meant to reduce crime on transit and repair the public perception of safety while using the system. Um, the plan that they're looking at in particular is the creation of 5 safety hubs along the Calgary train line, the C train line. Which transit peace officers and Calgary police will use to respond to emergency calls in a goal time of 10 minutes or less. Obviously, their previous times were not sufficient, so they're looking at about a $15 million, that's $15 million budget for the project during budget adjustments in the month of November. Sharon Fleming, who's the director of public transit within the city of Calgary, said safety on transit has improved since last year and ridership has also increased. There are signs that the actual users of our transit system are feeling comfortable in using transit when they need to get somewhere, and that's a huge step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Okay, now we can talk about religion. Red Deer Catholic School trustee says Holy Spirit told her to post meme that prompted discipline.
Yeah. So there were details about this that became public in a 15-page document that was released by the school board, noting discussions between the board, the trustee in question, Monique Lagrange, and her lawyer James Kitchen, which took place between September 25th and 26th. Lagrange took to Facebook towards the end of August to share a now deleted meme that featured a picture of children waving Nazi flags above a picture of children waving pride flags. The obvious intent here being to demonize the members of the LGBT community by comparing them directly to Nazis, which is hugely counterintuitive, but apparently the Holy Spirit told her to go for it.
All right. Let's talk about Saskatchewan and how the experts urge public to get flu COVID shots despite vaccine fatigue. This is
So
not
this
something I'd expect from Saskatchewan.
no, this is it's something a little out of the norm, but um, I mean, they've obviously interviewed a number of people for this, including those who won't get a flu shot. And I've got my last COVID booster, so I'm going to be fine. And y'all people are panicking. But it is true that about 54% of people who responded to a poll in Saskatchewan conducted between August 3rd and 7th said that they had some sort of vaccine fatigue. Um, and I can understand that. You know, there's been a lot to do to pull us um, out of our pandemic situation. Um, there's a few younger individuals who have said, well, I'm 19, I'm young, I'll be okay without them. You know, but Dr. Saqib Shahab says, look, we've already noticed an uptick. We're monitoring wastewater, we're monitoring hospitals, hospitalization and whatnot. You should probably get your shots, even if you're tired of getting them.
Hmm.
Just because you've stopped caring about COVID doesn't mean COVID has stopped caring about you.
Uh-huh. And well, we'll see how that works out. I'm going to get the flu shot as soon as I can, and then there's the RSV, and I'll probably get that too, in the hopes that it helps minimize the harm done to me if I should happen to become within range of both.
You know, it's one of those things where you're going to do what you feel is best for you, and that's fine. But at the same time, you don't get to complain about the consequences.
Well, that's where I lie sometimes. Let's do what we can to protect ourselves and to not affect others or be a burden to our healthcare system. Saskatchewan says parents should know when children transition. Apparently, there's a family that disagrees with that.
Yes. See, Saskatchewan's new pronoun policy is, according to this one family, not necessarily a good idea because it will stop children in the province from experiencing the support that they received as a transgender student at his school. This particular student at Balfour Collegiate said the provincial government is choosing not to trust youth by invoking the notwithstanding clause to override the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Saskatchewan House Human Rights Code in order to protect its policy from legal challenges. School is supposed to be a safe space, is what this particular family is arguing. And it was for this individual, Ren Roberts, when they first came out. They came out at school before they came out at home, and that sort of helped them in their transition because their friends were supportive. Their teacher didn't immediately tattle on them to their parents saying, hey, blah, blah, blah. So he wanted to try out his new name at school while he was transitioning and while he was coming out to his friends. And the fact that Saskatchewan wants to skip this entirely and just go directly to notifying the parents of it, um, you know, also he came out at school because he kind of figured, yeah, um, if somebody's going to out me eventually, I may as well beat them to the punch, but it's still at least on my terms. And
Well,
with the Saskatchewan bill, that takes that choice out of their children's hands because as soon as the teacher identifies a student who is trans, they're supposed to inform authorities, who will then inform the student's parents.
well, I don't know where. It's funny. It's funny. Where does the responsibility or the responsibility of the parents end? We're getting zigzag boundaries of where they can or where they're expected to take care of their children. This is a confusing issue for me. I just think parents should have a right until a certain age to, in fact, take care of their children, whatever that means. So that's not to suggest that all parents do a good job of taking care of their children, but I don't think you can take that right away from parents because of ones that don't. Unfortunately, you can't take all our driver's license away because some people don't know how to drive. That's just something that it worries me.
No,
Children are.
I was going to say that that's understandable, but at the same time, um, exploring their own gender identity is something that's important for a student
Oh,
also.
exploring their gender identity is fine. That's cool. That's great. Um, but I'm concerned with performing physical altering operations without parents' knowledge is just one step too far.
Yeah, and that's not what this is about at
That's
all.
yeah, as long as that's not what it's about.
No, no,
I
no,
think
no.
parents
This is this is
that's just them putting like on a bicycle the training wheels, see how they like it. Is it what they want?
Yeah, well, hormone replacement therapy can take years, not to mention the psychological consultations and evaluations. I've known individuals who've been attempting to transition for almost a decade, and they still
Hmm.
haven't been able to do it. They're well into their mid 20s, early 30s now, but they knew that they weren't their particular gender, that their sexuality was different when they were in their teens. So, it's not like we're just looking at, oh, hey, you think you're this, you're still in high school, but go ahead and do it. This is them exploring and coming out, being comfortable in their own skins.
That's fine, but I think parents should have rights until their children have, their independence. And the child can. We've seen and we've heard of children who go to court and get their independence. So there is a way out. It just takes a lot. Uh, uh, what's this about? No bomb found at Toronto subway station. Are we looking for one?
Well, on Tuesday afternoon, my wife was delayed coming home from work because there was a security incident at St. Patrick's Station, which is one stop north of where we work. We didn't find out until much later that there was actually a bomb threat that was called into St. Patrick's Station, which was evacuated at about 5:45 p.m. Um,
Yeah,
the,
that's
the
scary stuff.
situation was resolved relatively quickly, thank goodness, and no bomb was found. Um, but yeah, regular service did resume shortly after that.
Local businesses in Canada are donating proceeds to Gaza relief this week.
Yeah, more than 30 restaurants and local businesses across the Windsor Essex area are donating a portion of their proceeds in support of Palestinian relief amid the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas that has unfortunately killed thousands of people. Businesses from barbershops to restaurants, including the Souk Lebanese Grill and Hakim Al Donair, are each donating a portion of their proceeds on specific days this week. And there's a poster out for it to try to get humanitarian aid into the Gaza area because there's no food, there's no water, there's no electricity.
Yeah,
Um, it's a horrific situation. So they're trying to do everything that they can.
absolutely. Union calling for huge wage increases to attract more school support staff.
The OSSTF, that's the Ontario Secondary Schools Teachers Federation, is calling on the provincial government to double the wages of early childhood educators, educational assistants, and other educational support staff. The issue that they're seeing here is that inflation has risen through the roof, but the wages are too low to help recruit and retain workers. Um, and because of the constant increases in the cost of living, that situation is slowly and steadily getting worse. Um,
It's,
EAs say they sometimes have to supervise 5 to 10 children with disabilities at a time, but it reduces the amount of time that they can spend with each child. Um, Support staff represented by the OSSTF make just about $18 an hour. So that's unfortunately not sustainable in this current economy and this current environment.
mm-hmm. NBA, New Brunswick City's way bid to host 2029 Canada Summer Games.
So St. John and Moncton both say they're exploring a bid to host the 2029 Canada Summer Games. New Brunswick has been selected to host the national sporting event, which is going to involve more than 4,000 athletes, coaches, and officials. It's asked Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton to consider a bid. Um, so this is something that could be huge for them going forward. The facilities can be used in the local community, and housing can be turned into low cost after everything is done for individuals that may need it. Um, the games alone could bring anywhere from 20 to 30,000 visitors to the province, and they expect to announce which city is going to host in 2025.
Absolutely. More in New Brunswick. Hay shortage puts veteran support program with horses in jeopardy.
Well, as you know, there have been wildfires, and there have been issues with weather in the East Coast here. A farm in Nova Scotia's Hants County has actually been struggling to acquire hay ahead of the winter months, And if the shortage continues, it may be forced to sell some of their horses it uses in a program for veterans with PTSD. Um, the province is actually facing a severe shortage due to floods and long stretches of wet weather that made it hard to get machinery into fields. Um, now, this is the sort of thing where they pair up veterans with horses for dressage and riding and care, which gives them something to take their minds off it and help relax them. So that's it's a very beneficial program. Um, and unfortunately, it looks like they could potentially be sidelined.
Well, I'm going to say this about the problem in the Middle East. I hope at some point the truth matters, and so does the health of children, innocent children, and innocent people everywhere matters. There are no winners in this situation, Aaron.
No, unfortunately, there are not, and the situation is only going to make itself worse. Unfortunately, battle lines are being drawn. Um, it's an unfortunate reality that at this point in time, there's a lot of disinformation that's out there, and there's a lot of suffering right now, and it behooves us to try to find a way to reconcile that and come to a solution.
If we could get everybody together with the idea of what they need being the goal as opposed to what they want, there may be a solution. But it has to be we can't ask for more than what we need. And as far as I'm concerned, what's necessary and what's needed is a safe place for children to go to bed at night, not hungry, not scared, not thirsty, and not feeling that the end is around the corner. So I wish the best for everyone there, Jews, Palestinians, all of them. I hope they can find a way to realize that peace benefits them all. That is the hope. That's the target, I think, Aaron, that they have to believe that peace is good for all of them. Right now, some of them think peace doesn't work.
Yeah. Peace worked before. It
Yeah.
can work again.
And that's the hope.
And it's the willingness of the people and those who they choose to represent them um, that will bring about a resolution to this.
And what about that Speaker of the House thing that's going on there, where you've got Dum Dum One can't cut it, so they get rid of him. Then they bring in Dum Dum Two, and I'm sorry, they're both dum dums. I mean, these are people. If you make a call to the president, if a call is made to the president and you ask the president at that time, at the time was Trump, can you get me a pardon? You think maybe you did something wrong? I mean, would that be a clue? Would that be an admission?
Based on how quick people are to believe untruths and the amount of BS that gets thrown around there nowadays, I might have done that as a prophylactic just to myself.
It's ridiculous. And Aaron, there are two threads that are the same, the one in Israel and the one in the United States, and I'm afraid of it coming here. And that is, as much as we already have dissension in this country, and we have this mutual dislike of factions of people, right? In the United States, what's it done? It's created a situation where they can't even vote a speaker in when they have the majority. What does that tell you about the combative nature of people within politics? And then Netanyahu basically did the same thing. He created a division in Israel, and this is not to blame Israelis, but I do blame him that he created a distraction that allowed an opportunity for the barbarians at the door to come in with less than the hassle you would expect to get in. And that's what happens when we as people are distracted. Bad thing, there's a saying, divide and conquer. Well, if you're going to be divisive within your own country, do you not understand you're conquering yourself? You're creating an opportunity for someone to conquer you because you're not working together with the people beside you. This is my biggest disappointment in the world today, is the divisiveness that exists everywhere. It's all that want as opposed to need.
No, for sure, and it's really, like I said, it's making sure that everybody comes together. And you mentioned it
Absolutely,
yourself.
and I hope so. because a lot of innocent people don't deserve what's about to happen. And when I say what's about to happen, it's the fear I have of what I'm hearing, and the way we're running amok with statements before we even check out what the truth is. It's just crazy. We watch this, Aaron. It's like watching a train get off the tracks, or you see it speeding and it's rocking, and you can see it coming. It's the most horrible feeling when you know something's going to happen that's bad, and you see it coming and you can't stop it. Sad.
Yeah, that sense of helplessness when you're watching something
It's
derail.
awful. It truly is awful. On a good note, though, the Leafs are playing tonight.
Are they playing tonight?
Isn't it tonight? Are they not playing tonight? Wednesday
Tonight or
night?
tomorrow?
Is it tonight or tomorrow?
I think it's tomorrow.
Okay. If it's tomorrow,
Let me check. I
I
can
thought it
pull
was
that up
Wednesday.
right away.
Oh no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyway, whenever the Leafs play, we won't be here until another day, so it'll be after the Leafs play. So either way, after we leave the show, we're looking forward to watching a Leaf game with it.
Exactly.
And Matthews has gone from trending at what was it? What did I do the math? 82 times 3, 200 and 200
246 goals.
240, 246. He was trending at 246 goals a season after those first two games. Well, now he's down to about 168.
Well,
164.
I think I can live with 164 goals. I think that's
Well,
decent production for what we're paying him. I think that's decent
I
production.
think the big number to look for when it comes to Matthews is most valuable player in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think that's the thing that everybody that cares about the Maple Leafs want. They just want to see that Stanley Cup championship. And it helps to have a really good player like Matthews literally shooting on all cylinders or firing on all cylinders.
That would be absolutely fantastic.
It is. Okay. Congratulations, Aaron. We survived.
Yes.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank live, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and soon to be Fridays. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. And don't forget Candid Frank Stanisci 1030 on YouTube. Have a great evening, everyone. Enjoy your night.